Thank you, Mr. President. I, too, will be voting in favor of this bill, but I did want to echo just a bit of what Senator Latz remarked upon, and that is provisions that did not make it into the bill, particularly when those provisions came in from both sides. There was a provision that we now have voted in support of off of this floor twice, and that has to do with the use of what we refer to as unmanned aerial vehicles in law, commonly known as drones, setting forth those circumstances and conditions which law enforcement is authorized to use drones for purposes of surveillance and investigation. It is the judgment of both chambers that it would be prudent as a matter of the public's interest and public policy to set forth some conditions. In general, making sure that when law enforcement wants to use what is a extremely effective, highly advanced form of investigation and surveillance, that be subject to a warrant so as to balance the privacy interests of citizens, and setting forth some common sense exceptions for those warrants in the cases of danger to the public, natural disasters, training, use of drones by other units of government that aren't investigatory in nature, just used as a practical tool in the administration and execution of their tasks. Classifying data that's collected by drones, making sure it's subject to the proper standards of investigatory use, and setting forth some other conditions on the acquisition of drone technology, its training, its adherence to FAA standards, and the like. All very common sense measures, and in fact, there had been gained over the course of now these, I think, going on 4 years of conversation, coalition effort, collaboration with stakeholders, a stakeholder agreement, language agreed to by all sides. Unfortunately, that language had been modified slightly, and because the conference committee process became so abridged and so opaque and closed to any external observation, conversation, input, it went behind closed doors, and there's no real opportunity for the full airing of conversations that the conference committee process is intended to allow for. That ability to work out some of those last-minute changes, pretty small, fairly technical, but fairly substantial changes in law, maybe at 3 or 4 points throughout the provision, that could have been easily worked out, and we wouldn't have been forced now to go into a now third biennial cycle to work out what I think is a pretty common sense, pretty prudent measure that, like I said, we've worked on for so long. There are 2 other data practices and privacy provisions that didn't necessarily go forward in this bill, but also are going to fall by the wayside because everything has become so rushed and so jammed up and so opaque and not available to the normal legislative process, which I think is a shame. Members, we really need to reform how we're doing our work in this legislature, because good ideas that are in the public's interest, that everyone agrees to and has worked on for a number of years, just simply isn't making it through because of some inability for us to function the way we had for years and years. Thank you, Mr. President.